Thank you for turning to 10, your news leader. 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti continues right now.
It's very important that we hold the federal government, including President Trump, accountable. When they break the law, it harms Rhode Islanders, and we have, out of the Attorney General's office, the ability to step in. So certainly under those circumstances, I would hold the federal government accountable and make sure that Rhode Islanders' rights and our budget is protected.
I'm proud to stand on my record of making those promises to my constituents that that's something that I would work on, and then delivering on those results in the General Assembly. And that's the thing that differentiates me from a lot of these other candidates, is I have a record of walking the walk, right? When given a choice, there's political interest on one hand, and there's what you promised your constituents you were gonna do. Even when it's hard, I'm the only one with a record of service that shows I'm willing to make those hard decisions and stand by those promises.
The law firm of Hoffman, Knight, and Ahern, maybe. We'll see. Those are the two Democrats running for Attorney General, but there's a third. Kim Ahern is my guest in studio. Everybody gets a chance here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
What did you think when you hear those other two?
It reminded me why I'm running.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
Well, when I was watching that, I was focusing on 150 South Main Street, which is the building where I spent the most time in my career.
Yeah.
I was a prosecutor for just shy of a decade. I walked into that building that we just saw every day for just shy of a decade, and I worked for the past 3 attorneys general doing it: Patrick Lynch, Peter Camartin, and Peter Nerona.
So you've spent time in the building.
A lot of time.
You want to move to the corner office in the top. Is it actually in the corner? I don't recall.
It is in the corner.
It is in the corner.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when I had them on, I said, well, you're 3 Democrats, progressive liberal Democrats. And, you know, the buzz is that you might be the farthest left of those 3. Do you accept that?
So I don't know where the buzz is coming from, but I will say this.
Oh, you've heard that before. You're not breaking news here. Yeah.
Well, I will say this. First of all, what I was just saying,
Yeah.
I was a prosecutor under the past 3 attorneys general. I've personally prosecuted over 1,000 criminal cases.
Okay.
I did that in what is now called the Special Victims Unit. So I prosecuted cases ranging from murder to sexual assault to domestic violence and animal abuse. And so I was a trial lawyer. I went into the courts all around this state every single day in that time. I was super proud, Gene, to stand up in court every day and say this: I'm Kim Ahern, and I represent the state of Rhode Island. And I'll tell you what, none of those juries that I appeared in front of, the victims that I brought justice to, the survivors of horrific violence, cared what political party I had next to my name.
All right, so what about this business that you're very progressive, you're very far to the left? Is there something wrong with that? Do you accept that? Do you want to challenge that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it depends on what you mean when you say progressive. So I'll tell you this. If by progressive, if you mean, do I support equal treatment under the law? Do I support reproductive justice and bodily autonomy? Do I support access to a quality, affordable health care and the environment, environmental conservation, and supporting our working families and union protections? Then yeah, I'm a progressive. But I'll tell you what, Gene, I know plenty of Republicans, Democrats, and independents in our state that support those things too.
All right, let's talk about ICE. Progressive, right? We got a political argument over whether ICE is going too far, or maybe not far enough. Is that we would be the top law enforcement person in the state, and there are some police departments. In fact, Mayor Smiley told me yes, his police department will get in between ICE going into a house and the protesters on the street. At least put a line between them so we don't have the trouble we have in Minneapolis. Is that a good approach?
Yeah, so I want to be clear, I'm not fully versed in what Mayor Smiley has said, but I think in
He didn't say much more than that to me.
Okay.
We've gone back and forth, but that was the last time.
In terms of Providence, where I live, you know, I want to make sure that Providence police are able to do their job and actually, you know, look for crime and keep us safe. And when we're talking about ICE, what I'm concerned about are when they're preventing access to justice or, you know, doing things outside the law and the bounds of what is reasonable behavior. And so I'm thinking about yesterday in Providence District Court, where apparently ICE agents went right through security, didn't stop, chasing some folks. You know, that's a real issue. We don't want our, first of all, defendants of crime, victims of crime, or witnesses to crime to feel like they can't be safely in our courthouses around our state.
It was a chaotic scene. Apparently some ICE agents were chasing a suspect, and the suspect went into the courthouse and ran right past security. So ICE, duly authorized agents, officers of the law, they ran after him. What would you have them do? Stop? go through the metal barrier. He'll be gone by then. What was wrong with that?
Well, I don't think he'll be gone because he'll be running into a courthouse where there's plenty of law enforcement officers in there, including Capitol Police. That's why we have them guarding our buildings.
You know what could happen. I mean, if you pause in your chase, well, he's just going to run ahead of you. Who knows what could happen?
Yeah, no.
Was that a bad thing?
I think it's bad when ICE is not clearly identifiable, when they're not at least trying to collaborate and work with local law enforcement, when they're defying the bounds is what is order, and order in courts, which is really important. You know, we don't want chaotic scenes in our courthouses. We want people to feel calm and safe when they enter the halls of justice.
Law enforcement makes mistakes. That's why we have review panels. It happens all the time. And you can do whatever you want. You can sue them. You can file a complaint. ICE, duly authorized, coming after a bad person, let's say theoretically going up to a triple decker and grabbing that person. Is there anything wrong with that?
I think if they're operating within the bounds of the law, listen, like they have their own role that they have to play in our country. My concern is when it turns violent, and is when it turns outside the scope of what is reasonable in your terms, and without law or warrants involved. So,
can you give me an example where that might be? Are we talking Minneapolis?
Well, I think like many people, I was really appalled, concerned, just as a mom and a parent in watching those videos. But of course, I haven't seen every possible angle. I don't know everything that went on there, just like you. And so when I see something like that, I'm shocked, appalled, I'm concerned for our country, and I hope there's a thorough and independent investigation to find out what happened.
All right, understand. Shocked, appalled. Are you shocked and appalled at the treatment the ICE agent got? He was clipped by the car. That seems to be established now. In the last video, he was clipped. And by the way, sources following that say he also suffered internal bleeding. Yeah,
so my concern is that exactly what you said. When we sit here and try to Monday morning quarterback, and we have little clips on the internet, and we don't have a full independent investigation into what happened, then we don't know. And so that's what needs to happen in that case.
All right, so on that particular thing, you want to just take a step back and say, let's wait.
No,
you want to weigh in on or not?
No, not to take a step back and let's wait. Let's make sure we do a full investigation and find out what happened.
Okay. Now, the current Attorney General, who you'd like to replace, Peter Nerona, has become famous for suing President Trump. I think there's more than 50 lawsuits right now. I can't even keep track of them, but he's suing them on all sorts of things. Would you continue that posture in suing the president and linking up with other like-minded attorneys general and other plaintiffs and suing the president this much?
So first of all, I think it's a good question. The Attorney General's most important job in Rhode Island is to keep Rhode Islanders safe. And so when I worked there in that building, we were looking at, there's two divisions that actually make up the AG's office. Criminal division, that's where I spent the vast majority of my career, prosecuting violent crime. And the Civil Division, which is doing the work that you're talking about of the Public Protection Bureau. And so I think it's really important, no matter who the president is in Washington, if this administration or any administration comes into our state and attacks our fundamental rights, values, and freedoms, or our nonprofits, or our bottom line, that we stand up and fight and we sue, and I would continue that work.
Have you familiarized yourself with the more than 50 lawsuits? I don't expect you to recite them all, but have you got a good handle on what they're all about?
Just like you said, I do follow them. I know that Rhode Island, for example, appears to be punching way above our weight in terms of a number of those being filed right here in Rhode Island.
Do you think there's any judge shopping going around? Several of them have gone before Judge Jack McConnell, who was a Democratic operative before he was appointed to the bench, and let's say they've been very lucky before Judge McConnell.
Yeah, so one thing about my career I didn't mention, the very first job I had as a lawyer, I was a clerk at the Rhode Island Supreme Court for a year. So I got to work not only for a judge, but see how a variety of judges work and operate. And then, of course, as a lawyer for the Attorney General's office. And so I feel very strongly that when a person becomes a judge, that they leave their political viewpoints and partisan anything behind. And certainly that's what I think here in the district court. And I want to say this too, Gene. I recently read a study that apparently over 70% of these Trump lawsuits around the country, both Democrat and Republican, are overwhelmingly siding against this administration. And by the way, you mentioned a judge of the district court here. There's another judge of the district court here who's also sided that way, and she was appointed by President Donald Trump.
All right, you've put forth this notion that you will be a tough law and order prosecutor. I'm getting that message.
That's right.
That message from you. You've been a prosecutor, you're going to continue along those lines. Despite this notion that anybody's going to say you're progressive, you're to the left, you're saying you're a tough law and order prosecutor. You're coming to us from the Cannabis Control Commission. Just philosophically, do you believe in the legalization of marijuana? I would assume so. You took that job.
Yeah, so one, that was a decision that the General Assembly made, not me, right? So the General Assembly in 2022 decided that we were losing out on revenue to the state of Massachusetts, and so they decided to pass adult use cannabis. And when they did that, they created a brand new state agency, and I'm grateful that the governor and the Senate president thought that I was responsible enough and that they had the faith in me to be the first head of that. So to be clear, I wasn't, working at a cannabis retail shop or a licensee. I was the top regulator in the state of Rhode Island for adult use cannabis.
But you wouldn't take that job. You didn't believe in it philosophically. You're okay with legalizing marijuana, because some people aren't.
Granted,
Yeah, I mean, it passed.
Exactly.
It's democracy, but some people aren't. Do you see the other side of the argument? There was no way to check whether or not you're driving high. I believe we still don't have that.
Well, so it's really hard for law enforcement to do what you're saying, to detect if individuals are using. And so I'm proud of my time as chair. Actually, I worked very closely with state police and with the Department of Health to roll out proactive campaigns to make sure that individuals are aware that we shouldn't be using, obviously, when we're driving, that vulnerable populations like pregnant individuals shouldn't be using. And so, but to answer your question, I think one thing with cannabis is that there's still so much unknown. Because it's federally prohibited, our research institutions, like URI, for example, or Brown, can't study it. And so until we move to a point where we can have institutions of higher ed actually studying this, there's still a great deal of unknowns about it.
Separate you from the other two Democrats who are running, because I see a lot of common ground between the two of you. I'm going to go back and look. I think they said some of the same things you're saying. Why should I go with you over Hoffman or Knight?
I am the candidate in this race with the most experience in the office I want to lead. I served as a prosecutor under the past 3 AGs. I served as a legal counsel to the past 2 governors, and I served as the head of a state agency. And let's not forget, the Attorney General's office is a very large state agency. Every step of the way and all of those jobs, I've worked tremendously hard to keep our communities safe, our systems fair, and our values hard. And I think that's why I am the best candidate for the job.
Okay, let's talk about you personally. You came to us when you were 18 years old. You went to school here?
Yeah, I moved here to go to Providence College, and I fell in love with the state, and I fell in love with my wife, and we've decided to make this our home every day since.
And you have 3 children, you were telling me, 3 young children.
Yep.
Okay, and well, you gave us, you went through the Attorney General's office. You worked for Governor Raimondo.
Yes.
And Governor McKee.
Yes.
Okay, what did you do for them?
So I was legal counsel for both. I was a lawyer. I got to do a range of work for Governor Raimondo. I mean, I was working for her in March of 2020, when the whole world shut down and when crisis hit our state. And so everybody played an active role in the COVID response, me included. What did I do specifically? I was tasked with managing the individual supports work stream, so infusing COVID funds into our most vulnerable populations, folks that couldn't quarantine and isolate, that couldn't work from home, that didn't have access to DoorDash or Instacart, or vaccines. And I'm really proud of the work we did there, because we showed that an executive, Gene Raimondo, could stand up to this president, President Trump, when he was running amok around the country at that time.
Have you got a favorite in the race coming up? Helena Foulkes, Governor McKee, possibly Joe Shekarchi? Is there someone you'd like to serve with?
It seems
alongside, you'd be a general officer?
Yeah, so it seems like it will be a busy race, like you're alluding to. So one, I already said this, but I appreciate the confidence that the governor had in me to put me into that prior role. But I want to say this.
The Governor McKee.
Yes, but I want to say this. The Attorney General has a very important role in this place, in this state. Statutory and legally has to provide representation to any general office holder and their agencies when they're sued. And so, first of all, I'm going to take that really seriously, and I'm going to represent anyone who ends up becoming governor, and I'm actually focused on my race for the Attorney General.
All right, very good. Thanks for coming in, Kim Ahern. Good luck to you. I'm sure we'll hear from you as the race progresses.
Thanks for having me, Gene.
All right.